Item number 3, discussion regarding the Oklahoma International Bluegrass Festival. Mr. Tom Webb, would you please take a seat up front there?
Be happy to.
And tell us what's on your mind, sir.
Well, that would be a short 30-second,
And we have the timer.
because the capacity is there, you know what I mean? Pleasure to visit with you this evening. We have had some discussions previously with Serena and with Cody, wherever you are. And the topic of the discussion was to look at the contract that Oklahoma's International Bluegrass Festival has with the city of Guthrie. And Serena graciously invited me to come and join you this evening to discuss the festival and the relationship that we've had in the past several years. This is our 18th year having the festival in continuous operation. And we're very pleased with the history of our relationship with the city of Guthrie. And I am the festival coordinator, sometimes latrine cleaner-upper, but we have over 400 volunteers who participate in this festival. But to put a face on Oklahoma's International Bluegrass Festival and to tell our story, you have to look at those people. But you also have to look at the person who's to my left in the blue shirt, and I don't know if the camera picks it up or not, but his name is Byron Berline. Byron was approached by a state representative and an employee of the Oklahoma State Department of Tourism some 17, 18 years, or 19, I guess 19 or 20 years ago, about the prospect of having a music festival in this state. And I know that some of you were around in those days. I recognize some of your faces as being in attendance to our festival, but some of you may not know the history of what the festival is about. And so Byron, when he was approached, he's had in his mind for some time. He loves traditional bluegrass music. You may know that he was a 3-time world champion fiddle player and had a great career in the state of California. Before that, though, he worked with and for and was a very good friend of none other than Bill Monroe, the founder and really father of bluegrass music. So Byron has a legitimate resume of being one of the leading bluegrass musicians in our country and arguably the world. So it was Byron's work with these two people and his vision that began this festival some 18 years ago. This festival was designed with several things in mind. The vision was very important, and that was not that we were going to be a one-year wonder, come and go, but that we would establish a festival that would work annually and would help to perpetuate this music. Bluegrass music is not the most popular music in the world, and you know, for some people's meat is another one's poison, and some people's music is another person's noise. And we won't go into all of that discussion tonight, but I can tell you this, that bluegrass music has a following, but it was in some dire straits, not dire straits, but they were having some difficulties years ago, and Byron wanted to ensure that he did everything he could to perpetuate the music. And how do you do that? You do it by introducing it and planting the seeds in the youth. And so in this concept, in starting the festival, not only did he plan to bring some of the best exponents of bluegrass music to our community. And by the way, I live in a suburb of Guthrie. It's called Edmond, but this community has really enjoyed that. Arguably, Byron is one of your greatest treasures. He's one of our greatest treasures in the community because of what he brought. Anyway, he brought this concept. Well, how do you do it with youth, though? So not only do you have good performers that attracts people so that we can pay the bills, but also we've got to set up something to make it possible for these young people to be exposed to this great music. And so the concept of having the festival and a separate area outside the immediate festival grounds, but right close to it, a youth tent where we could bring young people from this community and surrounding areas and introduce them, expose them to this great music. And that's what has happened. This past year, over 700 young people from Guthrie and surrounding areas participated in the activities of our youth tent with all of the volunteers that were associated with. A very valuable, an extension of what has happened over the years. And they do arts and crafts that are related to instruments. We have some of our paid performers come over and perform for these kids up close and personal, exhibiting the instruments, and they are so absorbed. The kids are just it becomes very important to them. Some of these youngsters say, you know, maybe I could play that instrument. Maybe I could play that guitar or that banjo or whatever. And so we had to go one step further. And so a scholarship fund was discussed to help youngsters that wanted to pursue the music, wanted to learn the instruments, but in some cases weren't able to have the financial resources to take care of it all themselves. And certainly their parents, who really pay the bills, couldn't do it all. So we thought, you know, if we can identify these people, qualify them, and then assist them in their pursuit of learning these instruments. And so that's what the project was about. And Mike Clark, who was one of the ground floor people in the scholarship program, he's deceased now, but in his honor, we call this now the Mike Clark Memorial Scholarship Fund. And each year we assist young people, aspiring, some of them prodigious musicians. What does that word mean? But they're very good altogether, but they're learning and they're growing. We've had youngsters from this community. I have 2 personal experiences. We have 23 scholarship winners this year, by the way, and we have contributed over $5,000 for their training in individual music instruction, in workshops, musical workshops in their instrument, or camps, because we have fiddle camps, and guitar camps, banjo camps, and this helps them. Now, we don't pay the full fee, the full tuition. We do that with a design in mind, because we want them to invest not only their time and their energy, but their resources too. Because, you know, that's a way to guaranteeing to see whether the passion is really there, whether the commitment is really there. And so we assist them with these scholarships. And so there is one aspect of the package that we brought in that is very important to this vision. In addition to that, the festival wanted to do something to be a center of experience for all the community. So the concept of a campground was developed. We were fortunate to work with you, City of Guthrie, in obtaining use of the Cottonwood Flats. And our initial investment in the flats was considerable. Through the generous donations of our supporters, we were able to finance the installation of all of the electrical hookups and meters throughout the campgrounds. And even to this day, year after year after year, when we come in, we find repairs need to be made, maintenance needs to be made, and we underwrite that entire expense. So, and we have some people here local. By the way, one of the things we do when we are working, we have needs, services, or we have needs for products, we come to Guthrie first, the business people who are here, because we believe that this is part of the synergism that goes in our working in Guthrie. So we consult first. We try to buy services and products here first. But in any case, we did this. We started off with very generous support from the public. If you remember, some of you are not, most of you are not even nearly as old as I am. But I remember the good old days. And the good old days for me were the late 90s, because there was a lot of money flowing in those days. And we were the recipients. We had a blessing of having many supporters during those days. And so we were able to tell the city of Guthrie and the leadership at that time, hey, we can do some of these things, like installing the meters there at the campgrounds. We spent a lot of money in getting this launched because we considered it an investment for a long-term operation for a year after year, not just coming and going, but staying. And in doing so, we were able to have a successful launch. I don't know I can't give you an exact date, but probably sometime shortly after 9/11, things changed. And they were already showing some change even before then, financially. And the economic realities to our festival and to really everyone that does business like we do changed. And like other nonprofit, we're a 501c3 corporation. We relied on the donations, but we saw those dwindling to some extent. We saw that the stresses to be able to bring the quality of artists to our festival. And by the way, when Byron and his people invite artists to our festival, if you've been to very many of these, you know that we have some of the best performers that are available in the world, and we're truly an international festival. I've been to several festivals, and I have a little bit of bias, just a slight teeny wince, but our performers are outstanding when you compare them to others. Anyway, in bringing these folks to Guthrie, we found it more difficult. We found the stresses on so we worked out an arrangement with your leaders at the time to make changes in how we contributed to and the fees that were charged according to our original contract. As a matter of fact, as an aside, this is the third time we've had this conversation with your leadership. We found that, no disrespect to Serena, but with each change with city managers, we had to address the issue again and again. So with with Melody Kellogg, and later with Matt, I've forgotten his last name, but I've slept since then. And in any case, we came away with an agreement, and that was, hey, we realize the economic realities have changed, so therefore, you will not be charged these fees, and we'll just discard them. And I said, well, why don't we get this in writing? And it was probably my fault, but for whatever cause, the writing never took place. And fortunately, Serena, in seeing this situation and bringing this up, I reminded her, and Cody was here when Matt was here, right? And so you remember this as well. But we agreed that we do need to address this, and with some degree of finality, or with some degree of a long-term plan, so that we can work without having to go through these hoops year after year, just with a change of administration. Now, I don't know your situation, but I know city managers, excuse me, this may not be job security, but they come and go.
Absolutely.
And that you always have to. Either you have opportunities or the city does. I don't know how that works. I'm not into government anymore. But in any case, we're here. We want to be here. There are communities around here that would give their eye teeth to have a festival like ours in their community. Who are the council members? I'm really not that familiar. But all of you have got to live in Guthrie, or you can be on the council. Now, we have a board of directors. Our board of directors for the Oklahoma's International Bluegrass Festival we have one from Guthrie, and he's sitting in the room right now, Byron Berline. But we also have a board member who lives in Stillwater, one who lives in Edmond, one who lives in Oklahoma City, one who lives in Duncan, Oklahoma, and one who lives in Muskogee. And they love Guthrie, don't get me wrong, but they also have ties to their communities. And every year we do have, at one time or another, discussion. If anything ever happens, we want the opportunity to talk to you. Well, we love Guthrie. We think that the environment here is perfect fit for our festival. We like not only the geography. Are we out of time?
You're getting there real quick.
Okay, I'll make this short and sweet. What I'm telling you is this. Our festival is here. We're here through the efforts and energy of many, many folks. Many from right here. Our 400 volunteers, most of them come from right here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And we are here by the graces of the city. We just ask for your continued support. As we revisit this contract, we ask you to think in terms of the value and the assets that we bring to the city of Guthrie. And we want to work with you in the future. And by the way, one thing I want to mention, I know my time is up. Mumford & Sons came here last year. They brought in over, 70, 80,000 people, or a huge number of folks came here. And Guthrie was the justifiable recipient of over $200,000 in proceeds. We are so excited for you in doing that. One of the reasons though they came, that they said, was documented, was they came because they knew that the ground had already been plowed here. It was fertile with the music from Oklahoma's International Bluegrass Festival. They knew Byron. They felt comfortable in coming here. A lot of cities wanted that concert, but we got it. And I'm so proud that we were able to do that. So we, like many of the other nonprofit organizations that have events here, need your help, need your support, so that we can make Guthrie a better place and inviting for all of these others who are profitable, even though we aren't. Okay? Thank you.
Question, Tom. Have you read the contract?
I have
Or the
not
new
yet.
agreement?
Not
Okay.
It was per our conversations.
Okay. So do we need
And I'll
to?
explain it.
Okay, all right.
All right. The agreement that we talked about was to move to a, instead of an annual type agreement, which I may want to remind y'all, as the city manager, I carry out your agreements and don't have the authority to charge money or not charge money in accordance to your agreements. So the agreement that you have before you is to do a 5-year renewal rather than an annual renewal, to remove the 15% camping fee, that the leasee, International Bluegrass, be responsible for electricity. OG&E for this year has currently committed $1,500 of their money to give to Oklahoma International Bluegrass Festival to pay for that bill. Typically that bill runs around $2,000 for the weekend. And that was the only changes, and you won't see the contract again unless you'd like to see it more often, but every 5 years. It allows International Bluegrass Festival to not come and see every city manager and make a deal, but to have it accountable to the council. If you want to make it 3 years, you could. We put in 5 years, as long as the festival exists. Currently, you can see the city spends around $16,000 in preparation, fencing, setting T-posts, building the water, tees, and mowing. So that's your labor cost, in addition to your cost for supplies. So it's $16,000 for the city. We're asking that they cover electricity, and OG&E is currently committed $1,500 for this year.
May I say one thing about the commitment to city? We really appreciate the history of support from the city of Guthrie, not only from the current administration. Chuck Bircher isn't here, but he has been an invaluable resource for us over the years. And as a thank you to the city of Guthrie, we every year provide between 200 and 300 free passes. The retail value on those is about $14,000 to $16,000 for you to distribute among the employees who are interested in participating in this festival. And that is an important way that we can tangibly say thank you to you. And by the way, if any of you that are in this room tonight are interested, you've not been to the festival before, we invite you to come. And I will go one step further. I'll make you my personal guest for that festival, to see it, to be able to see it up front. It's one way to paint a picture in words, and it's another to experience it.
Anything else we need to, that's it? Questions?
It's on the agenda tonight, right? Okay, good.
So I have a question. Operationally, is this acceptable to the city, the agreement on our side?
We're happy with it.
Okay.
Sure. I mean, it's a major cost and time, but it's well worth it.
Okay.
Our sales tax return is pretty good, isn't it?
October is one of the lower months.
Is it?
And it's hard to indicate where that comes from, you know, we don't go through and break it out, but October just historically is a low month.
But this may help.
And so it may have been lower,
Before.
right, but it's hard to calculate.
One of the things that is interesting to us is that when people come to Guthrie, they fall in love with this place. We've had people that come to our festival and are now living as permanent residents in Guthrie because they fell in love with Guthrie. So we're excited about that, yes.
So, question, so is this would you say that revenue and expenses, do you make anything off of it, or
That's a good question.
is it a
I just happen to bring
flat-
some evidence rather than me just tell you,
Okay.
something to look at, okay?
Sure.
And have it here. We're in such a budget, we didn't put staples on these, so there are 2 pages. So, tell you how frugal we are. And pass those on down.
If you want to hand them all to me, I'll pass them out for you.
Yes, you can, you're good at hand.
I am good. I
And
am good
one
with it.
thing you will notice, I'm going to keep one copy just in case you ask a specific question. This is our income statement for the past 2 years. This is what we submit to the Oklahoma Arts Council. They recognize us and have recognized us for several years. The Oklahoma Arts Council, if you're not familiar with them, only support those ventures which they believe are very worthy and that are unprofitable. They're not profitable. And unfortunately, they find us unprofitable, but they really believe we're worthy. So they are our single greatest financial contributor year after year, and we're so grateful for their support. If you'll notice, like, for example, last year, we had a net profit of $4,000, but that was only after, in December, Oklahoma Arts Council looks at our financial picture for the year. And we were actually about $10,000 in the hole. And they came, as they have in several other years. As long as we're within reason, they want to support us. As long as they see we're managing the money, we're good stewards, and we're frugal in our operation, they support us. And they have consistently over the years. And they're under a lot of pressure not to. But we're thankful for that support. And you have here some evidence of what we've done in the last couple of years. Yes.
Well, you haven't looked at the contract, but what are we gonna do tonight? Are we wanting to approve a contract?
We're gonna approve the contract unless he says otherwise.
You
Well,
haven't read it.
okay, that's a good
Well, that's
question.
what, everything we discussed is in there.
Okay. One thing I've got to tell you, I am a representative, I'm only one of the faces, but any contract I would have to submit to our board of directors, you understand that. I think
We can approve it.
they would be receptive to this contract. I think they would, but I can't speak for them at this time because we look at it, we have a volunteer legal advisor, and they look at it,
Okay.
and we're meeting on July 10th. Our meetings are open too. We don't have cameras, so we have that disadvantage to you, but we welcome you to be a part of that. But we are, yes.
I have an operational question on this. So, do we need to see this again? Once we approve it, they approve it, then we approve that they approved it?
No.
Once we approve it, we're
Okay.
done.
All right.
We're saying this is our offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Fair enough.
all right.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Thank you. For those of you who are interested, I need a little ad time.
Okay.
These are brochures, and we'd like to welcome you to the festival. Look it over, and if you have any questions after the meeting, I'll be happy to deal with that. Well, I may not stay, do y'all go until 11 or 12 o'clock at night?
No.
Yeah.
No, okay,
We're gonna be
good.
late.
That's reassuring.
Maybe 10. Thanks,
Hey,
sir.
how are you doing?
Thank
Hello, Mr. Shedd. Good to see you. How are you doing?
We'll put a timer on it. Take one down. And Jim will breeze through it, please.
This is on number 4.
That is public buildings. And this is, it's not all public buildings, that would take all night, but some of y'all expressed interest in, I think everyone expressed interest in some of our facilities at our council retreat. So Jim is taking a few of those. Restrooms, lovingly we refer to as the Blue House, which is the airport property house. that's used for storage currently, the Territorial Square dancers, and the old water plant. So we will try to quickly move through it. It is just an informational session, nothing on the agenda tonight for it, kind of getting into the conversation of what to do with public facilities.
I'll go through these as quick as I can and answer any questions that you might have with regard to the handouts. The handouts somewhat speak to themselves. The first has to do with the apothecary gardens and keeping those restrooms open more often and longer during festivals. And we've had a problem in the past with that because they tended to back up and cause problems. In investigating this situation, what we found, or what I discovered through investigation, is that the sewer line is fine. It's sized properly. What we don't have in that facility is direct flush toilets, if you will. And we don't have the ability currently to do that at that facility because the line coming into there is more residential than commercial. It takes an 1.5-inch line to come in there. And so as we look at where we're at today, it probably doesn't make sense cost-wise to do that. So what are the alternatives? And I've listed some alternatives here for us to do reasonably inexpensive, and that would be to install some new toilets, which would be three men and three women and two men. They're called Champion Flush. I had Hurley, I think most of you folks are familiar with our plumber in town, that looked at this, and he's the one that helped me out with it. But the Champion Flush, I mean, it's incredible. They will flush anything and everything. So, and then the other idea would be to add hand or air dryers so that we no longer have the multi-fold towels that people will use to stuff. Exactly. Even though these new toilets, I think, would handle it, but I think eliminating the multi-fold towels would help in
I
that.
have a question, Jim. So are we saying in this that would replace what's there, or actually keep what's there and have the new location with new bathrooms?
No, this would be to take out the old
Take out
toilets,
the new
put
one.
in new toilets, put in some hand electric
Okay.
dryers,
Okay.
get rid of the multi-fold towels.
It has the right sewer lines, but it doesn't have the right water lines. We put in residential to a commercial location and you can't.
Would it be cheaper to keep that there and then find somewhere else to have new bathrooms?
Probably
It'd
not.
be a lot more expensive, a little?
Yeah.
'Cause we
Those
need
were
more
around
bathrooms as it
20
is.
25,000?
No.
Way
Over
more.
50.
Yeah,
Oh,
over
wow.
50,000. Wow.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
this is the cheapest alternative, and I think, and I'm convinced it'll work. I mean, I truly am, and that would allow us to keep those open longer, so.
And it doesn't have to be council approval, we're notifying them.
Will that let us leave it open on the weekend, or is it just a cleanliness thing on the weekends? And, I don't.
Yes to the first and yes to the second, so it would allow us to keep it open longer, and I think by keeping it open longer and having this type of a facility, I don't think we'd have the backup, and
Get rid of
so we'd have less problems and less
Get
problems
rid of
to
the
keep it
paper
open.
towels, that's part of it, that's part of the
They
trash.
just
Yep.
drop the whole thing in the
Yeah.
toilet.
Yeah, okay.
So this is something we're gonna, you said we don't need council approval, so this is
Sorry,
something we're gonna
we're
move forward with?
Y'all had asked me to get you information to get it. I'd love to move forward with it if we can find it in the budget. If we can't find it in the budget, I'd put it in the October budget.
Okay.
Our building and grounds is in pretty good shape, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The next two items have to do with the other two facilities, the Blue House and the Girl Scout building. And on the Blue House, I did go and we took some pictures, and I'm going to cue Aaron here to maybe put those up for us real quick so you can see the Blue House. A little bit on the outside of the Blue House, and then we've got some pictures on the inside now. From the perspective of what's going on at the Blue House on the inside, the Friends of the Library is currently occupying the Blue House for the most part. And they use that for storage of books, sorting of books, and then Cindy could probably even talk a little bit more to that, but basically they support the library, the Friends do. So, and they've used that for a number of years. Prior, when we had the tornado, we had to ask them to vacate the building, and we relocated the animal shelter out at the Blue House. I don't know if you folks can recall that, but we did for a good part of a year until we got back on our feet at the animal shelter. So they had to relocate, but they were happy to get back in. And they've contributed a little bit to the Blue House from the perspective that we had a door, the garage door rotted out, and at the same time the opener also seemed to go. So Seems to me the city paid for the opener and they paid for the door. And if I'm wrong there, it's vice versa. But the costs were pretty well even in terms of an opener and a door, so. That's the Blue House. In terms of the demolition of the Blue House, we had Midwest Wrecking come and give us an estimate of that. And you can see that was $78.85, and that would include removal of the slab. Now that house, if you will, is on a slab. It is not with a crawl space. And so when we talked with the folks at Midwest Wrecking, and I had a conversation with Jim Hankey in our planning department, and he also stated that it's an almost impossible thing to have somebody purchase that, lift it up and haul it away and relocate it. So it pretty much would be a demo, if that would be what you'd want to do, and that would be,
And that is on airport property.
it's on city property, right?
But it's airport property.
Yes.
Technically, there were some FAA rules on what we can do with that property. You cannot sell that property.
I've got a question. Typically, was it $3,000 or $4,000 to get rid of the debilitated house? Why, it seems like double that. What's the difference?
If Renee doesn't want to speak to that, 3,000 to 4,000 is typically your pier and
Very
beam,
low.
and that's a very low number. 3,000 to 4,000 is your pier and beam, 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house.
Okay. Because that,
With
the
wood.
slab is what's costing.
It's, yeah, this is just a bigger piece.
Okay.
I think that's a decent quote.
Right, yeah. The 3 to 4 is the
Is the
bottom end.
middle
I mean,
house.
still.
Little bitty one, yeah.
It's a good, it's, good
It's a
enough
pretty
for-
good sized house.
good
It
number
is.
for
Just the
buying.
house, not the garage? Or is it-
Well, the garage is attached.
There's a barn now on the
There's an
backside.
outbuilding,
That's what I was
there's an
looking at,
outbuilding that, I don't know, did Aaron put?
Yeah.
I got a couple pictures of the outbuilding. The city's currently using that outbuilding for storage. And that outbuilding is in good shape, and it would be my recommendation that we keep that outbuilding, because we use it for storage, and it's a good building. There is, the caveat is though, we don't have running water in that building, and we do not have heat and air, so it's a cold storage.
What are we gonna do with the books?
It's a good
Well, that would
question.
be the Friends of the Library, and what impact will that have on the library? I don't know that.
And Cindy, if we had time, and if we don't want to, we can wait. But there's no decisions to be made today. There's something we need to talk to the Friends of the Library about, potential climate controlled type storage. They're looking for something that has some sort of climate control. One conversation that I heard at the council retreat was to use the armory as a potential storage. I don't know if that fits their needs yet, if the armory would be a suitable location for their materials or not, but it may be one of those options.
I got a question. So I know a research library, my wife works at a research library, and they have an annex, but they only do that because these are books that you can still obtain, you can actually still check them out and whatnot. These books seem to be in store. Is there a reason why they're just sitting there? Why aren't we just selling them?
They do, once a year they sell these books.
Okay, these are sellable
Staging
books.
area, I
These
would
are,
call it.
oh, okay.
Yeah, they sell them
These
at
are
the
sold
at the
books,
church, at the fellowship hall, once a year.
Okay.
They're not owned by the city.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they just, this is a place where they
right.
put them all together,
But they
and then they
typically
haul them down
need
and sell them.
some kind of a temperature range, otherwise they mold and whatnot.
Right.
So I
That's
don't-
the issue.
I'm not even sure if Armory could keep
I-
them because of the
bingo,
temperature
I don't
issues.
know.
Yeah.
Unless we set aside a room and then had heating, air conditioning in that one location.
Yeah.
Is that a fundraiser for the library when they do that? Is that what it is?
Cindy, if you'd like to briefly,
It is, yeah.
thank you.
Over since nine,
Get up there by him.
You can
Give it a
stand,
check.
I'll sit.
okay, awesome, thank you. Since 1986, the Friends of the Library has contributed over $250,000 to the library. That's books, magazines, capital improvements like ceiling fans, computers, software, shelving, lots of stuff in the library the Friends have contributed. So fiscal year 2011, they gave us $12,000 and some change. The fiscal year since then, it's been a little over $8,000 per year. My understanding is the utilities insurance for the Blue House is about $3,200. So the Friends is definitely covering that cost, if you look at it that way. And they do have the annual book sale, but they also sell consistently throughout the year in the library. And we get donations literally every single day. So, and we've got some very dedicated Friends of the Library board members that come to the library every day and move books and sort them and kind of keep that under control.
I've got a question. It seemed like from those pictures at the very least that the pictures gave me the impression that they're spread out around all over the place. Is it possible to find a smaller, like for example, could you fit all those in, say, a bedroom and stack them and have them be real high? They'd be, condensed and stuff. My thought is we could find a very small place somewhere that has some air conditioning rather than a whole house. We don't need a whole house for this.
Quality control pods.
Yeah, they're,
Climate control pods, I
Yeah,
was thinking, they
yeah.
might be cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because we're spending utilities out here, so something, the air conditioner or lights are running somehow,
And if you had it
Yeah.
right next to the library,
yeah.
it'd be awful handy.
Anyway,
You'd
that's
like
something.
that?
And could you
I like
investigate
that idea.
a pod
They would
idea,
too.
or,
Yeah.
there's even storage units, I don't know if that would be cheaper to have a storage unit in
I think
town.
it-
And we've discussed that. What I was thinking is maybe let the library board take a kick at it.
See what they can come up
And
with.
see if they want to give you all some options
There's some
and they can do it
low-cost
in their next
alternatives,
meeting. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, not the 17th?
Kick it to the library board.
Okay.
All right.
Now, do we want to move forward with demolishing that building? I mean, that's something,
We want to wait.
Well, let
is that a
them-
policy
Find out
thing?
Find out what the library can.
I agree,
Okay.
yeah, let's table it till then.
And back to there's no budget to do any demolitions right now.
That is library, or that is airport property. Will they help
It
with
is.
any of the expense?
Well, I took that question to heart. Randall and I talked about it, Justin and I talked about it. We've never put it in the airport budget because the airport doesn't use it. And it was really, even though it's airport property, the airport's saying, hey, we don't have anything to do with this. They don't want,
Need a hangar over there, huh?
they're not, it was only because it's in the flight pattern. And
Right.
is why it's the airports. So I can understand the inequality. If we want to properly budget, we should put it to who's using it. And who's really using it is the library. So it's out of general fund. But good point. I was trying to find a way because then Edmund would be paying half.
Yes.
I know, working on it.
Oh, that might be tricky.
It gets a little tricky. It's a little tricky.
Right.
It's an idea.
But we do maintain that property too, and we don't put in there the cost for labor, maintenance, mowing.
Mowing.
We just mowed it. We got a complaint the other day from a neighbor, go mow it. There's more than gas, electricity, and water.
Next is the Girl Scout building that we just looked at for demolition purposes as asked. And that's kind of a unique building. You can see the estimate there is just, the basic is 13.8, but when you tack on, they call it an alternate 1 and 2. One is to do an asbestos survey and the other is the cost of removing asbestos. And that siding, we feel, is asbestos siding. So, I think you can pretty well conceive if you were to demo it, it would be about 17.5. And I think Aaron might be showing some pictures of that as we speak of that. And that building is not in the greatest of shape. In fact, last week, I got a call from a roofer who evidently the Territorial Squares asked him to come out and do an estimate to put a new roof on because it's leaking, and it's leaking pretty bad through the vent pipes of the restroom areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the estimate is $10,400 to re-roof it. And it's a huge roof. It's a linear roof, but with one peak, but there's quite a few squares
Does
there.
that explain the leak in the bathroom then,
Yeah.
for the previous?
Yeah.
Well,
Not the bathtub.
I
Or is it
guess,
something different?
you know what, I can't answer that,
Okay.
Mary.
It
Anyway,
wasn't
so-
coming from the
makes
ceiling.
sense.
Oh, and
It wasn't coming from the ceiling though in that leak. Not a plumber.
It
but I'm
didn't
just-
appear to be.
It didn't appear to.
Sounds like it's got major
so
problems.
It's-
so would a new roof get rid of the asbestos issues?
No,
No.
no.
Not this
No,
one.
the asbestos is the
the
siding,
siding.
all the
Okay,
siding.
not the tiles.
You know, those old fashioned asbestos
Yes.
shingles, yeah.
I got a question, just a thought. Now,
Yep.
I really push for the dilapidated housing revenue line item, or not revenue, but expenditure line item. But this is dilapidated property. I'm wondering if, and I hate to say this because there's so many houses we want to get rid of in town that are just, abandoned. Could we dip into that? Because this is actual city property that we need to remove. We could put some of these line items, the Territorial Squares, the Blue House, maybe even Excelsior Building if we decide not to move, if we're the ones who have to get rid of that property. put that in there and for 1 year, and we would deal with this issue. It's just a thought.
By vote of council, y'all could do that. What it'll do is just take away from the probably more visible residential homes that, people don't see the square dancer facility. Nobody drives up there except for the people that use it. I mean, it's not visible from the road. So it's just, and that's up to you guys.
And I agree with that.
If you
I
wanna-
just see this as an issue that we
Yeah.
need to deal with. If we can't afford it, I would love to do both. But I'm worried if the budget will not be able to
Not-
deal with both
Not
of
this
those.
year, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Not in this year.
I'm just saying that, to me, that might be a possibility.
Sure.
I don't know what the other folks think, but I think it's important to deal with these issues, or they're going to keep dealing with these issues. We've been talking about
And
them
I'm
lately a
not
lot.
sure, for example, if the Square Dancer building meets the criteria for code for dilapidated buildings. I don't think it meets it. I would say it doesn't, and Renee agrees.
Yeah.
So they're not quite there yet. What really we're bringing to is, what are your future O&M costs? We keep maintaining facilities that we don't take great care of.
Yeah.
And that's my concern right now, being notified that roof is, that it's leaking. I think we're at a point where
That's your problem.
we need to do something, whatever that means, I don't know. At a minimum, I was told the boots that go over the stacks are gone. And so that water's coming right down the stack, like a vent pipe stack.
And from our conversations, I don't see any will of us putting a penny into these properties. So it just seems to me that it makes sense to deal with them for the year. I mean, it doesn't mean that, I don't know if that will take up the whole line item, but.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, just a thought.
And then last is the old water plant. We've got a few pictures here that we've taken, and maybe Aaron can put those up real quick. I basically took the liberty to just do some quick measuring and some quick figuring on the old water plant, but if you got a chance, take a look.
No, he's not.
He's not showing them. All right.
Wake up, Aaron.
The structure, it's a brick building with concrete on the inside, so it's got brick and then concrete on the inside. The walls are relatively thick. Structure-wise, it's a pretty solid structure.
The front half. or
The front half, yeah.
The back part doesn't have that concrete on the inside.
Nor does it have a concrete floor.
Right.
Right. So all we were
And so-
looking at when I looked at this was just doing the front, which is about 1,300 square feet. And so if you look at that 1,300 square feet, I basically, through measurements and going on the internet and talking with Jim Hankey, our in the planning department, I came up with a cost, and this is just an internet type shoot, if you will, of like $86,000. And some of the issues facing us are that that's in a floodplain.
Yes,
The basement leaks like a sieve.
yes.
And so those are two of the biggest challenges that we would face on that
And
facility.
if I understand, the main thing that brought this up was a lot of people use that for photographs. So it is nothing more than something that, and I don't think we could find a photography agency in town that would want to spend this kind of money to take a few pictures. So this is one of those things, it looks good from the outside.
Oh, there we go.
That's about it.
Yeah, I don't know that we need to, I don't know that we need to be going
It's a
Dropping
big-
and
$86,000.
dropping $86,000 on this building, that we're not gonna make anything
It's
off
at least
of.
a 10-foot
There's the,
basement.
And that's something we could put off for a while. I mean, is it
Sure.
gonna fall down any day soon,
No.
or
No,
what?
I don't
not
think so.
structurally unsound.
No.
It looks nice.
Has a new roof.
Yeah.
It's one of the only
The
buildings.
only, the only concern that I would have is, for the building itself, and we've been very lucky, is that it hasn't had any graffiti on it. And the windows have not been broken, and those windows are just a single pane
Real
window.
thin,
So,
old.
yeah,
Original?
We've got a couple in the back that are cracked,
You do.
and I think it was from hailstones that got those, or some kids throwing rocks maybe, but they got a crack or two in them, but that's it. The rest of them are, and the way that back settles, I'm surprised they're even still in
The pane?
yeah, so. All right.
So there's a lot to chew there, but any other questions with regard to properties?
I will say that just going back on this Blue House, from the numbers that you've given us,
Yeah.
the city's spending $3,200 a year to maintain that. If it costs $7 to get rid of it, you just need to add $4 to your budget, and you can dim it the whole thing, right? Basically.
Yeah. These are all costing us a lot of money.
So,
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of demoing a public
Right.
facility is to avoid the future O&M.
Right.
Or the current and the
Yeah,
future.
in 2 years, we're paying
Sure.
for this house.
So-
Yeah, your return on investment isn't
Yeah, you're
bad, sure.
right.
If you look at it from that way.
Yeah.
I think what Cindy's point is that the Friends of the Library gives more than that amount in a given year. So we don't reflect that on the revenues line, and maybe we should have, is that the revenue, there is revenue, but what you hope is that revenue is actually buying them materials and maybe not going to,
I think going back to
gas
the
and
idea that
electricity.
unless that house was perfectly full, I mean, we can condense that and put it in a air-conditioned facility, that makes sense, I think.
I would let them
Be a lot
speak to that,
cheaper.
because I really don't know
Well,
if,
when they have the
I don't
cell that empties out because they
And
put
then
all the
they-
books down
Yeah.
the cell. And then over the year, it starts emptying, it fills
Right.
up. So it's not a 100% full storage all the time.
Sure.
right,
So
right.
I think you can
Right.
condense it. We can save money by storing it in a different way, I think.
We're gonna look at cost of pods and climate control.
So-
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the point being too, on this water plant, you're spending close to $3,000 a year on it with no investment coming back into
None.
it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, how, I mean, that's gonna be a continual bill every year.
Absolutely.
And that's, you know, there's over $2,000 in insurance on that. So either you look at how do we get the insurance to be cheaper on it, or, you know, what can the city do to spend less money on that? If the city were to fix it up to, say, get, you know, Logan County, the fairgrounds people to use it for, I don't know, demonstrations or whatever. I don't know, I'm just saying. If there would be a good use out of it, then it might.
I think of the 3 properties, that has the most potential to do something with. I think that's why we are unlikely to do anything
The
right now.
water-
But yeah, the water
Yeah, I
plant.
think it does.
There's potential.
Historic value.
I mean, it's
We
great
just
on
should
the
be
outside.
thinking about the,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
we should just be thinking about the
Okay,
possibilities.
Right.
so.
everybody needs to keep looking at these buildings and keep an eye on them. We need to do some more thought process on it. So we're running short. So let's move to number 5 if we could, discussion regarding agenda items. Anybody want to bring up a question on anything on the agenda?
Sorry about the amendments. We want to say there was an issue on the bid with the coil bid, and we've amended the ordinance within state statute within, you know, after, 24 hours, et cetera. We amended that to put that back to you, and we'd forgotten to put the emergency clause on the ODOT annexation, so we added that. So sorry about those amendments. We try to avoid those. And on executive session, the properties in question have met their criteria for the agreement, so staff would not recommend going into an executive session regarding that issue.
All right.
I actually did have a question on that ODOT thing, just to clarify that is just from Capitol to Midwest Boulevard that they're gonna be working on, and that doesn't have anything to do with,
Oh, this is to annex from point of center
Correct.
35 over in the drawings right there, just to get the area for the traffic
signal.
traffic
signals.
signals, so it doesn't have, it
Just
won't,
No, it won't hit
it's
Midwest.
not going to affect, like,
Nothing else.
it won't
It's
affect
just,
our 2 businesses trying to go out there. Okay,
No.
that's all I
It'll
know.
just be the road part, right?
it's just the
Yeah.
road.
I mean, the right of way around the road,
It's
but
not private
what it looked
property,
like.
it's
is
state
it
law.
the right of way
They
as
call it
well?
right away.
And eventually, after we annex Love's, and then we annex, hopefully, the Travel Plaza, eventually, maybe, then it all ties in together, but this gets
This is
ODOT
just
city
a-
property
Okay, well,
for
that's
the
what it
traffic
looked like, but I'm
signals.
not.
There was a rumor out there
elaborating.
that this was gonna grab sales tax. I'll tell you, there's no sales tax on ODOT's right of way.
Unless we make a toll road out there.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not, oh gosh.
Item number 6, request for future items of discussion.
I will tell you, we want to bring to you, and you've asked us to do it, we have not done it yet, is to bring you a further reaching ordinance about open container in the historical downtown area. We didn't have that done by this meeting, so you'll see on there a special resolution for the Make Guthrie Weird July 12th, but we still intend to bring you, it just touches a lot of ordinances, and it was a lot more in-depth. We gotta fix some old ordinances and fix that one to get it all to work right. And that was y'all's request to look at open container for festivals, so we don't have to bring it to you every single
And are
time.
you looking at, does one person carry the permit on that? And if they do, are they the only ones allowed to sell versus?
The event carries the permit. Sorry, the event holder, whoever that is, and I believe that multiple vendors can be in there. That's, yes. Is that what you're asking, like if?
Okay, well, it's like in this meeting, we've got it for Tony at Bluebell to carry the permit on the beer, but she's not the event holder, she's.
There's
one
a
that sells
signed
beer.
letter in the current ordinance, we got a signed letter from the event people, because that's what the ordinance says originally, so we have them still abiding
Okay.
by parts of the ordinance. So Make Guthrie Weird Prairie Gothic gave us a letter that says
So
they
they're the
endorse
event
it.
holder, so-
They're the event holder, and she's the one who holds the license.
And so somebody else can buy a license also to
They
sell in
could,
there?
if they got here in time.
So you're only selling one license per event for one person to sell beer during the event?
In this situation, because they're the only ones that have requested it.
'Cause I think
In
they'll- in the
future,
future-
in future events, we would
Right.
want multiple carriers.
Okay, okay.
And this one is just the only ones that asked us.
And we just wanna make it
Because
easier.
I can see that happening.
Oh, yeah, where everybody, which
More the
staff
better.
would support.
Well,
and
we
make that
change it from
recommendation.
a,
But they can only do it if they have a county beverage license and they're able.
Yeah, there's still
Right.
some
You can't just-
able
they're
rules.
still gonna have to fill out the application. get
Right, you
the-
have to follow.
It would
legal
be
guidelines.
like filling out an exclusive use form with an addendum, like an amendment to it saying, do you want to have beer? And then you would fill this out. And then it doesn't go to council every time.
Okay,
Okay,
It's the
makes
goal.
sense.
But this is only for 3.2 and under, not,
Yep.
right.
Everything else is able commission.
that's right.
Item number 7, we're adjourned.